Hi everyone, my name is Afsha Merchant. I'm a counseling psychology master's student at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology and a graduate assistant at the Naomi Ruth Kohonen Institute. And today we have Dr. Kim Dell'Angela. She is a licensed clinical psychologist and the current clinical doctoral program chair at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology. She will be answering some questions regarding how we can approach working with children and teens regarding difficult topics heard and seen in the media. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So the first question we have today is, what are some of the issues of greatest concern for parents who are raising children and teens today?
Well, a lot of parents are concerned about the impact of media. They may not have been raised with really the 24-hour media on television we have, the accessibility of internet, and any number of other media access vehicles that their children have. They are concerned often about what their children are seeing at various times in their development, as well as how that's affecting them and what kinds of information they get from them that they may not know.
Thank you. And do you have any advice for parents on how to talk to their children about all the things going on in the media these days?
Yes, this is a real struggle. I'm a parent, and I remember when things like 9/11 happened and issues of the guns and the shootings in schools. Those are particularly difficult for parents because they don't know what their children are hearing. They themselves are afraid, and when we are afraid, it makes it hard for us to figure out exactly what to say to our children to reassure them. There's a lot of consideration in how parents can think about talking to their children about these issues. First, parents should be thinking about who their kid is, really. Some kids are more sensitive. Some of them are more easily scared or more curious about events. And some are better able to understand the events that are going on. And so the first thing I always tell parents who are saying to me, what can I do, what should I do when I'm hearing these things on the media? Should I talk to my children? Should I explain them? Should I shield them? I ask them, what's your kid like? Are they easily alarmed, or will they tell you things? Because that's really the kind of thing that we need to think about with deciding how to approach these difficult topics.
True. We definitely need to talk to our children about that, right? Mm-hmm. Also, how can parents talk to children about these issues related to gun violence at schools and in communities? What could they say exactly?
Well, I think the first thing is to find out what they know. When you considering your child's developmental level, a 6-year-old may just see something in passing on the television, may not fully understand it, may not fully integrate it, while certainly a 14-year-old with their access to multiple media platforms is going to be aware of what is going on, and they may be hearing things from friends, accurate or inaccurate information, actually. And so the first thing is to try to get a gauge on what you think your child knows before starting the conversation. So one of the things that I talk to parents about a lot is first gauge what your reaction is, because if you're feeling nervous about something or you don't know the full information, you should check out what the accurate facts are so you can approach your child with accurate information and in a way that reassures them. And then the next thing is to gently ask things like, have you been worried about anything at school or wherever the event has been taking place? Is there anything that's going on that you've been talking about that you'd like to share with me? And sometimes kids will say, yeah, some kids are talking about X, Y, or Z, gun violence. There's some kids who are being shot at schools. And then you can fill in information, factual information that has three basic attributes, characteristics. And first, it should always be accurate. And that's why you check first to make sure you know what you're talking about. Accurate information in simple, and the second thing is in language that really speaks to the level of the child. You're not going to want to explain complicated gun laws to a 6-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you're not going to want to really say everything's going to be okay, the teachers have got this, to a 14-year-old, because 14-year-olds are thinking a little bit more deeply about these issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other really important aspect about it is to provide some level of reassurance, especially for children who tend to be on the more anxious or nervous side. They may want to know, how do I stay safe, as their main question. And so having a realistic conversation about your teachers are there to keep you safe, the school knows about this. You can ask them about the drills they do. A lot of parents are surprised to learn about the active shooter drills or the other kind of emergency drills that children do routinely and maybe have been doing for a long time that parents are not aware of. Mm-hmm. So, asking them about those kinds of information and providing it at a developmental level, and accurate and in a reassuring manner.
I like how you touched on being gentle and not accusatory for the children as well. And do you have any advice and strategies for parents that they can use to help children become more resilient when we're dealing with gun violence or anything such as bullying in schools?
Boy, that's the million-dollar question we all as parents would like to know. Resilience is kind of an interesting concept. We tend, I think especially in the United States, to think of resilience as being something that resides in the child, when in reality resilience is an interaction between the child, the individual, and the environment, and how much in the environment a child is supported. So when we're talking about building resilience in children, we're talking about being respectful to children, listening to their concerns and addressing them at a developmental level, and also challenging them a bit, letting them explore their worlds, explore ideas, while being there to support them and to acknowledge that trying hard things is difficult, and that sometimes you fail, and that's okay, and you're still moving forward. With regard to issues like gun violence and threats that are around too many children in our community, especially living in Chicago. I mean, gun violence and those tragedies make the news, big news, but we know in Chicago especially, we're living with violence in our communities all the time, disproportionately affecting many children who have other stressors. And so in those circumstances, I think as adults around those children, we should be thinking about providing as much support, as much advocacy in practical ways, and really expressing our admiration for the efforts that our children make in trying to understand and deal with the stressful things around them. And bullying, well, that's a grown-ups issue. We often put the onus of responsibility on children to deal with their bullies, and paying attention to children, being around them, watching for signs that they are experiencing interpersonal violence, and as an adult, not expecting them always to attend to it when, in many ways, the bully needs the guidance that only the adults can provide for them.
True. And how can you touch on that topic when, for example, a child may be getting bullied, but he's getting bullied on the internet? How do you address that issue without getting the other children in trouble as well?
Well, I'm not so sure that getting the other children in trouble is a problem. A lot of times children who are not being monitored in a way that they need to be monitored are struggling, are looking to exert their feelings of control over an environment that may not feel so controllable to them, are enacting that through bullying, or they're seeing role models around them that are not modeling good problem solving. And so if your child is being bullied, I think it is absolutely appropriate to try to find out how to help that other child stop the bullying of your child, but also develop better coping resources for whatever they're struggling with, and identifying that child as a child who needs some help. There are ways to do that that are supportive to everyone concerned. It may not be practical in some settings, I recognize that. There are some parents who may not be as equipped to support their children who are bullying and may have a difficult time. But finding those resources in the community, whether it be in a school, whether it be in a neighborhood, whether it be in a church, that enables that child to have the monitoring and mentorship to find alternate ways to express that, the person being the bully, to express that. And then helping the child who is being bullied to understand that they don't deserve that. Unfortunately, we know that children who are bullied go on to develop difficulties with their own feelings of self-worth if they don't report it and they don't get some help with it. So the other part is also helping kids who are not being bullied not be bystanders to it. Enabling children to feel comfortable standing up for another child and saying, cut it out, that's not right. Bullying is not an acceptable behavior. We need to build empathy in all children and build those skills to respond to bullies. As grown-ups, we have trouble doing that as well, and it's also incumbent on us to not be bystanders when we're seeing injustice happen around us. And so as adults, as parents, we should check ourselves on that sometimes too.
So what I hear you're saying is that we should be reflective and showing our own actions when we're teaching kids about bullying, and be a team with other adults as well, so our children are not victims of bullying or become the bulliers. Yes. Regarding the gun violence, can you elaborate more about how would you talk about this sensitive topic to like a preschooler or a younger child without making them more scared than they already are, because guns are a sensitive topic?
Well, I think it starts with, as I said, recognizing that some preschoolers may not be paying attention to it. Some preschoolers. Some may be seeing scary things. And what a young child will be taking is more than the anxiety that's going on around them. The adults are nervous. The older children are nervous. They're seeing a lot of this. So using simple language and asking, did you see all those people marching around? What do you know about that? And going for the emotional aspects. Yeah, they're upset because some people got hurt and they're trying to keep that from happening again. So once again, developmentally appropriate level, evaluating whether the child is even paying attention, because you're certainly not going to want to say, oh, you should be afraid to go to school. That's not the message. It should be a reassuring message. But also, gauging, is there anything you want to know? I think that's one of the most important things we can ask a child at any level. Is there anything that's scaring you? Is there anything that you want to know more about? How can I help you with that? How can we learn about this together so you feel better?
And would you recommend parents to talk with teachers about policies regarding gun violence?
I think all parents should take an interest in how their schools operate, and that would include their emergency procedures and those related to guns. While it's in the media a lot, the reality is that most schools in the United States are safe, that these problems are coming to our attention, but they've been happening for a long time in lots of places. And so it's getting attention, but at the same time, we shouldn't be overly afraid and communicate that to our children in a way that doesn't help them feel comfortable going to school. Highly anxious children are going to take these things to heart. They take hurricanes to heart. They take car accidents to heart. And certainly they're going to take a threat of gun violence. So it's very important, if you have a child who is sensitive in that way, to do your best to shield them from overexposure to media. I think we could all benefit from decreased media exposure, especially during times that are particularly trying for us and worrying, that to give ourselves some space for the other things that are going on. And children certainly need that. Allow them the time to not think about that and not bringing it up all the time and not having the television on and the news on all the time actually can be a very beneficial way to approach it, especially for a child who is on the more sensitive side.
I'm going to bring our attention back to some information for you viewers. So we're at the Naomi Ruth Cohen Institute right now. If you have any other questions for Dr. Kim Delangela, you can call in right now as well, or you can talk to Kate Mahoney for any questions in the future. Dr. Delangela, we have a caller. 1 second. We're going to take that caller right now.
Good evening, Dr. Angela and OSHA.
Hi, how are you?
Hello.
How you doing this evening?
Good, thank you.
You guys got your hands full with these kids today, huh?
Yes.
Indeed.
Yeah, we got
Like every era, right?
Absolutely, all over the country. These kids got troubles inside, outside the home. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Okay, and then they got quite a few of mine altering drugs. That's not helping too much either. But as far as bullying and all that, I think we're way past the bullying stage. When you and I were in high school, we always had kids we picked on. You can't do that anymore. But the kids inside the schools, the state schools, the universities, the elementary schools, they got to get closer together. If you see a classmate that's having a problem at home, he's got some kind of attitude, he's partially your friend, grab him, go talk to him, sit down, maybe have a cookie, go outside for a walk. These kids today have got to realize there are guns all over. You can't stop them from coming in, but you have to be a little bit, help the teachers, the principals, the students a little bit more. If you see a kid that's coming into school, he's having a hard time at home, either grab him and go talk to him, bring it to somebody's attention. The police can't do it all. Guns have been here since the day of the Cowboys and Indians. That's never going to stop.
Yeah.
We need more hotlines where the gangbangers from Chicago can call in and speak to a human being on the telephone, maybe get something off their chest, and decide not to go shooting. Our Chicago is being absolutely obliterated from all over the place.
Thank you for your comments. You're absolutely right. It takes a community to really help children who are struggling and adults who are struggling. Fortunately, many schools have school counselors and more programs that help students understand what to do when they see a fellow student struggling, how to understand difference. There are programs that exist for that can really help teach children the empathic responses and the helpful responses that can really support other children who are feeling isolated. And those skills can carry them into adulthood and really can be part of the solution. But kids can't really do this by themselves, as we know. Having that adult in the building, at home, somewhere where they can go to, who can take compassionate action to support the child who is having a hard time, that's really, children can only do so much. But children can also learn about who are the trusted adults who can be counted on to support those other children who are struggling. So those are some good points. Building that empathy in our children and action in our adults to support children who are struggling is absolutely essential to address some of the core disconnection that is related. And then I think we also know that domestic violence is and other kinds of interpersonal violence is very strongly related to the actions of these shooters. And so good laws and good outreach and good action on the part of adults to support people of getting themselves out of situations of interpersonal and domestic violence, and identify those people who are at risk to commit violent acts against others are also part of that problem, solution of that problem.
Yes, I agree. The caller touched on how children should go to the adults if they see someone acting different or if they're dealing with some sort of mental health issue. What do you think about that, Dr. DelAngela?
Yeah, I think certainly being a friend is good, but reaching out to an adult, as a teacher, a counselor, someone in your faith community, a neighbor, I think that is really the key to this. And also making sure the adults have those resources, that they know how to get that child into some kind of services, get that kind of support. The hotlines are good, but we also need better mental health services that children have access to, and that's a complicated problem that we as a country are dealing with right now, how to make sure that people get access to those services early on when early issues are identified, which often may be at school for some children.
Yes, and we all know there's a controversy on the gun violence laws as well, and we can't change that, as the caller said, but we would definitely encourage people out there to speak with the adult professionals if they see anything in the schools. Anything else you want to touch on before we end this show today, Dr. DelAngela?
Well, these are difficult questions that parents and all adults who care about children, which hopefully is all adults, are grappling with. And as we think about them, we can think about them at the individual level, but recognize that when we come together as a community and that we put our solutions together and we put our resources towards the care of children, you see bountiful outcomes to that. We know that good intervention early in a child's life, whether it be mental illness or other struggles, really makes a difference in their long-term outcome. And so it really is important that we take this seriously in a way that perhaps we haven't done so in the past.
Yes, I fully agree. So I wanted to show you guys this information just one more time. You guys can contact us at the NaomiCohenInstitute.org. Naomi Cohen Institute is all about reducing mental health stigma. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Thank you. And last but not least, I just want to say thank you for Dr. DelAngela for joining us and for coming all the way from the Chicago School of Professional Psychology to join us today. She does great work in the clinical doctoral program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you.